Welcome back to the Fit Minute Podcast, where we talk all things health, fitness, and lifestyle. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back. I'm your host, Gabby Mazar, and on today's show, I have Dr. Johnathan Su. He's a physical therapist, yoga therapist, and fitness coach based in San Francisco. His clients include entrepreneurs, executives, and elite athletes as well. As a former U.S. Army officer, he was in charge of injury prevention, rehabilitation, and performance optimization. Dr. Su, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Gabby. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you've written a few books, including this 6-minute knee pain, 6-minute fitness at 60 plus, and 6-minute core strength. And we're going to get into that today. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, what you've done in your past, and what kind of led you to wanting to talk about injury prevention and how to help others with that?
Absolutely. So I got into the field of physical therapy after a severe knee injury when I was 15. A 200-pound linebacker crashed into my knee and pretty much snapped my knee in half, tore every ligament in my knee. I was told by the surgeon that I would never be able to be active again after that. No running, no hiking. And as a young person, physical activity was really important to me. So I was devastated. I was also told that by the time I reached my mid-30s, I would need a knee replacement. And so that essentially set me on a search for how to have a serious injury and still be able to function. And now I'm approaching my mid-40s. I have no knee pain. I still have a missing ligament, so my knee moves in ways that it shouldn't. But I was able to overcome the knee pain, and that 15 years journey accumulated in the writing of these 3 books. Essentially, it's my just sort of understanding of how the human body works and how we can all function better, move better, and feel better.
So tell me a little bit about what you did in order to be pain-free and that journey to get there.
Absolutely. So that was a long journey, and what I essentially did was I sought out all the different disciplines, professionals from yoga and Pilates and massage and chiropractic care and physical therapy, um, acupuncture, you name it. And what I noticed was that each of these different specialties had a different approach, a different answer. And individually, they all helped, but it was the collective of all these different solutions that if you can take the right pieces from each, at least for me and a lot of my patients, that we can essentially resolve a lot of physical ailments. Um, so that's what I essentially did since I had this knee injury, nearly 30 years ago, was I essentially just explored all these different fields. And eventually I realized that I needed to have a more professional background. So close to my 30s, I got accepted into a physical therapy program through the U.S. Army. It's a highly regarded program. It's a program that's fully funded, so you don't pay for it. And they select at the time only 24 people a year nationwide. And I was very lucky I got selected for that program and spent some time at West Point, learned from some of the best people in the field there, and then worked on thousands of soldiers. You know, it's very interesting because you would think these people, soldiers, young, healthy people in the peak of their fitness, but these guys also have a lot of injuries and pain and overuse injuries. So all of that experience really informed me on how we can approach injury prevention and managing pain.
So why do you think it is that knee pain and injury just in general is so common, and how can we get it from such simple activities? I mean, walking, running, and just simple physical activity. Why do you think it is so common, even in such young individuals?
Yeah, that's a great point. So that's a question I was looking at. And you're right, because your doctors will tell their patients, hey, you got to walk more. And what I find that is a lot of my patients, in their who are middle age or above, they would start walking. They would follow the doctor's advice and they would notice, after a week or two, oh my goodness, I have knee pain and I haven't had an injury, but here's this knee pain. And, why do I have this knee pain? How do I prevent it? How do I get rid of it? And then the solution typically in our healthcare system is, well, here's some pills, maybe we could give you an injection. And really that's not the solution. And in my opinion, that's not the solution. And these things happen with young, healthy soldiers also. And what I found is that in our culture, we just don't have this idea of maintaining the body, having a maintenance program for the body. I mean, we do that for our cars, right? In our culture, we take better care of our cars than we do our bodies. We send our cars in for tire rotation and oil change periodically. But when do we ever do that for our bodies? And so that's really the key.
Yeah, I agree. And if you think about it, you do things in a pattern. We do things repetitively throughout our lifetime. So if we have a small injury like a sprained ankle when we're young, we take that into adulthood. So we're walking in a specific pattern and not correcting whatever we're doing our entire lives. So, you go at 50 years old and you start walking, you're walking a certain way that can cause that knee pain or can cause hip pain or sciatica or back pain. So we're not maintaining the way the body should be working naturally. We're doing it in a way that is compensating for things that have happened over our lifetime. So it's interesting that you say that. You're right. We should be maintaining the way our bodies should be performing the way that they are. When you look at an infant, how they can curl up into a ball and do things, and you're looking at them like rolling around and bringing their toes over their heads. Not that adults can do that, some can, but that's our bodies should be able to function that way, but they don't, because we grow up and we don't stretch and we don't exercise and we don't move. We're sitting at a desk all day long and we're not out moving all day long and stretching all day long and exercising and getting the movement that our body needs in a natural way. So it's just interesting that you point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I think this is just one of the ailments of modern society. We just, humans in general, we like our comfort zone and we get familiar with it. And now anything that we do that's outside of that feels like work. And that's so we start avoiding the type of movements that we need. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
So what kind of things do you think that would be considered maintenance?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the analogy I like to use is is by using a car, like a race car. So a lot of people think that if you go and, walk for 5 miles or you go on a run or you swim, that that's considered maintenance. Now, I disagree with that because that's like taking a race car and racing it around the track. The real maintenance work happens after the race is over, when you take the car to the shop and you start tuning the different parts of the car. Well, it's the same thing with the human body. When we're walking, when we're running, with every step we take, we put about 2 to 3 times our body weight on our knees. And with running, it's multiple times, many times more than that. So the running and walking, we can't consider that to be maintenance. The maintenance comes in when after or before exercise or physical activity, we start to work muscles that we typically don't use. For example, when we're walking, we place a lot of work on our quadricep muscles on the front of our thigh. That's the main muscle that keeps us upright and that absorbs shock when we step. Well, now imagine you walk a mile. That's 2,000 steps. And over the course of a few years, you walk multiple miles a day. I think the average American walks around like 2 or 3 miles a day. And so that's hundreds of thousands of steps. Well, guess what? You need your hamstring muscles on the back of your thigh to balance out the muscles on the front of your thigh that's being used with walking. And so if that gets ignored, then you start having this imbalance and you start
Mhm.
having knee pain on the front of your knee. So one great exercise for, maintenance would be to exercise the hamstring muscles.
Yeah. And I think that we also neglect too the importance of stretch, of massage, of water, of rest, of stress relief, of all of those other little things that come into play too. So you're absolutely correct. So if we think about running, okay, you're a runner and you're running 5, 10 miles a day or every other day or however much you run. You're right. You're doing this, but you need to maintain the strength training to oppose whatever you're doing in your running. So you have to strengthen the opposing muscles that you're doing while you're running. You're right, because you're only strengthening one set of muscles when you're running, not the others. Absolutely. And I am so strong when I say, because yes, I'm a Pilates teacher and we do strengthen everything, but I really try to reinforce to people to do different forms of exercise, do yoga, do strength training, do CrossFit, go out there and do different things because you want to get all of the different muscle groups. You want to get all of the different types of training. You want to get the stretch. You want to get everything, because if you're only doing one thing all the time, you're right, you're not doing the maintenance because you're just not doing all the things. I think that's where the injury comes in, is if you're only doing deadlifts every single day, deadlifts and power cleans. You're only doing deadlifts and power cleans and you're trying to get strong, 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 and then you hurt your back. Well, yeah. I mean, your hamstrings are ripping strong, but you're not strengthening your core and your back to be able to handle the strength in your hamstrings to clean the weight. You have to do everything else, and you have to stretch the hamstrings and do all the flexibility work to be able to handle the weight of what you're doing. So yeah, absolutely. I definitely, I mean, I get a massage every other week. I get a stretch every other week. I do Pilates. I try to be rounded in my exercise program because that's how you are pain free. And I mean, I'm still not pain free, but that's because you have whatever injuries you had in your life, whatever, you've done over the past. I've had a hamstring sprain, um, you know, back pain, knee pain, whatever it is, over the course of my life. But you have to work with what you have to continue that maintenance, just like you would tune up a car. You have to replace the motor mounts eventually because they go bad, and replace your tires, and whatever it is, there's always going to be something that's going to need that maintenance.
Yeah, and you brought up a really good point about sleep and hydration. And I think what some people don't realize is that that does have an effect on your performance and injury. So if you haven't slept that well the night before or for a few nights and you're not fully hydrated, now the level of exercise you're doing is going to be more overall more stressful for the body. And then now, you might start getting knots in your muscles, trigger points, that creates pain, knee pain. And so you got to work out those things because those things like the knots and trigger points, well, many times they don't resolve by themselves. So you need the soft tissue mobilizations, the massage, the stretching. Yeah, this is all part of a package.
Yeah, and continued. It's not a one-time thing. It's not like you can go
Right.
get a massage once and you're done, or you can stretch once and you're done. It's a continual thing. I think, when people come to me and they're like, well, how often do I have to do this stretch? And it's like forever. You
Yes.
have to do this forever. Like, you can't just do this for, 3 months and then go, okay, I'm done. I'm flexible. Like, no, you have to maintain this for the rest of your life. Like, it just is. That's just what it is. I mean, you can't you can't continue sitting in a chair forever and then think, you're not going to create whatever imbalances. You have to undo whatever you're doing every single day. So, yeah, for sure. And yes, sleep and hydration is so huge. Your sleep is your time for your body to heal. And if you're not getting good sleep, your body is not healing the way it should. And hydration, I know so many people that just don't drink water at all. And that, like, oh, I'm getting cramps. Oh, I get all these cramps. Well, yeah, your body's dehydrated. It's not it's thirsty. It's so thirsty. It needs water. Your body is made up of water. It needs it to be able to do the functions that it has to do. And I mean, is from digestion to, thinking, everything your body does, it needs water. So, I mean, you have to have all of those things.
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely. And especially with the water, what's challenging with that is, as we get older, our thirst sensors start to decline, and so we don't feel thirst. And so especially middle-aged people and above, they think, well, I don't feel thirsty. Well, you don't need to feel thirsty because at this point, by the time you feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So hydration's got to be one of those conscious things, just like maintenance work for the body, stretching, and um, so absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the books that you wrote, 6 Minute Knee Pain Cure, 6 Minute Fitness Over 60, and 6 Minute Core Strength. Why don't you go a little bit into each one of those and tell me about them?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first book that I wrote about 4 or 5 years ago was 6 Minute Fitness at 60 Plus. And what I noticed with a lot of older adults is that, um, there's this, idea that walking or hiking is all I need to do to maintain my strength. And so I was seeing all these patients, and they had all had one thing in common, which is age-related muscle loss. After the age of 50, we lose about 1 to 2% of our muscle mass every year. And after the age of 60, about, 2 to 3%. And the scientific term for this is sarcopenia, sarco meaning muscle and penia meaning loss. And so after the age of 50, simply walking or even running, stairs, hiking is not enough to rebuild our muscle mass. And this decline happens so slowly that most people don't realize it until they have to all of a sudden stand up by pushing off the chair. So I also realized that a lot of older adults, their relationship to exercise is a little different than most younger people. They're not looking to for exercise for aesthetic reasons or to build as much strength as possible. They're really just trying to be functional. And so that's where the idea of 6 Minute Fitness at 60 plus came from. It was just after working with so many patients, I realized, okay, here are a set of exercises for most people, they're doable, and they're effective. And so when that book launched, it was a hit. And right now on Amazon, that book has over 2,000 reviews. And I think it's because this is a solution that most older adults need. They don't realize how simple it is, and at the same time, how important it is to have this type of fitness program.
And not only just muscle loss, but bone loss as well, which is very important. We know that a major thing is falling and breaking your hip. And that's huge. That can mean death. So we know that especially with muscle loss brings bone loss. So those two things are very intertwined. So you have to maintain as much muscle loss as you can, and it is more difficult as you age with the loss of hormones as we age as well. It is harder to maintain that. So keeping even a little bit of a regular routine to maintain muscle can help tremendously. So you want to have that weight bearing exercise, even if it's just a light weight bearing exercise, like a weight vest or just, 3 to 5 pound weights or whatever it is, to be able to maintain that for your muscles and for your bones. And even if it is just 6 minutes once a day or a couple times a day, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you have the other two books, so the core strength and the knee pain. So we've gone into the knee pain. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about those two?
Yeah, so the following year after uh, publishing 6 Minute Fitness at 60 plus, I realized, the next step, after rebuilding muscle strength and being able to function normally is to be able to prevent pain, prevent uh, injuries, optimize the function of the human body. And so that's where 6 Minute Core Strength came from. And the way I define the core is not just the trunk, but it's also the shoulders and the hips. Because if you think about it, the shoulders and the hips are also part of this midline part of the body. So 6 Minute Core Strength is just about different types of programs to help people move better, feel better. And that book came out the year after. And essentially, most of the exercises that I give my patients comes from that book. And these are pretty much every single maintenance exercise that I do on my own. So that's been an important book for me and for a lot of people.
Uh-huh. That's cool. So I think, yeah, I think you're right with when you talk about core, and people don't realize that it is all connected here. When you think about your core, you do think about just your vanity muscles. You think about just like, oh, I need to do sit-ups, I need to do crunches, I need to do leg lifts. But your core actually has to do with your back, your obliques, yes, your shoulders and your hips and your hip flexors as well. And all of those things are intertwined and they all need to have strength, one for balance, one for, back pain. You're helping to prevent knee pain as well, shoulder pain, neck pain, it helps with posture. All of those things are connected. It's not like you can just do sit-ups and have core strength, right? They're all connected, and you have to do all of the things in order to be, rounded, I guess, is what.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And it was really interesting is that there's some research now that's been out for a few years showing that especially for older adults, sit-ups may not be the most effective exercise. And in fact, it can cause back issues, all that forward flexion, it can cause the discs in your spine to can injure those discs. And there's also other research showing that, you don't actually need sit-ups to strengthen your core. And in fact, exercises that keeps the body, pretty straight, like a plank movement, is actually just as effective as sit-ups.
If not more effective. Yeah. And it's what's the thing is that there's so many people that have disc issues, L4, L5 disc issues, so many. And I see it so often, that where they even have to have them fused or they have herniated discs, bulging discs in that area. And it's such a big issue that, you know, sit-ups would be terrible for that. You can't do that. So, a plank would be is better for that. You want to be able to build that core strength without them coming into that forward flexion. And when you see people doing sit-ups a lot of the time, they're doing them incorrectly. And when you think about someone, oh, how do you do a sit-up incorrectly? Well, you don't want to be doing anything with force. You don't want to be throwing your body up. You want to be using the muscles. And being a Pilates teacher, you see things so differently because we don't do anything with force. Everything you do is with flow, with your breath, and you're doing things so slow and controlled that you see somebody doing something when you're doing fast sit-ups, crunches as fast as you can. I'm sure in the army, that's probably what you did in boot camp. They're like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And you're like, now you look at it and you're like, whoa, that was probably the worst thing we could do.
Yeah.
You want to do things precisely. You want to do things, slowly and with flow, to be making sure that you're actually engaging the muscles correctly. So, when you're actually doing a sit-up, you might be causing and probably are causing more harm than good because you're not even really engaging the muscles. You're just doing it with momentum. You're throwing yourself up. You're, hurting your back, you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing anyway. When you could just be holding yourself in a plank and doing 10 seconds and then 20 seconds and then 30 seconds and then holding for a minute and just increasing that time, and you're engaging everything in your front line from your shoulders all the way down to your, shins, toes, engaging all of those muscles if you're doing your plank correctly. So yeah, definitely not a fan of the sit-ups, even though we do roll-ups in Pilates, but again, done in a different way. So then it led you to your 6 minute knee pain cure. Tell me more about that, what led to that, and go deeper into that and how that led you to writing that book and more about that.
Yeah, so it's funny. Every time after I finish writing a book, I tell myself that I'll never write another book again because it's just so much work. But then, I finished the 6 minute core strength book in 2021, and earlier late last year, I just felt that itch again. I came into this profession because I had this injury and I wanted to help people. And looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm approaching my mid 40s now. I have no knee pain. It sort of defied the expectations of the healthcare, the surgeons and, what people expect that you would be experiencing after a knee injury almost 30 years ago. And so I felt compelled to really share this information. Um, and and so I decided to write this book, started writing this book in November of last year, and essentially just sharing exactly how the system I use with my patients. Because, in the Army, I've worked with just thousands of patients with knee pain. I mean, soldiers, they're harder on their knees. They have to carry 35-pound packs with body armor and weapons and pretty much jog 12 miles every week. And so they get a lot of knee injuries and knee pain. And the program that I sort of the process that I've developed for knee pain worked well for them. And 7 years ago, I left the Army. My wife and I wanted to, start a family. We didn't want to be, moving around every couple of years. So I started working with civilian patients, a lot of older adults, and I realized that the process that I came up with knee pain also worked for them. A handful of them were able to avoid knee replacement. Some of them had, was post knee replacement, still was experiencing pain, and we were able to resolve that. So I realized, hey, this is a program that didn't just work for me or young, athletic people like soldiers. It also worked for older adults. So I felt compelled to put that out there. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and ideally that's what you would hope to do, is to be able to prevent surgery or knee replacements and get people off of medication, and be pain free. It's really sad that people are on a consistent stream of medication and being in pain and having to go through surgery, and even going through surgery and still being in pain. So, even with a knee replacement, they're replacing that joint, which sometimes has to happen because there might not be any cartilage in there anymore. But you have to reattach all those muscles and tendons and ligaments there. So, you want to be able to rehab that in a way that relieves them from pain so that they don't have to be on those medications anymore. So that would be ideal. And if you can do that, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's what you really want.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because, if you've had a serious injury, or you've had a knee replacement, which to me is essentially a serious knee injury, because it's trauma to the body. What happens is that the body will always that side of the body will always be a little weaker. So the side of the injury will always be weaker, and that's why you always have to keep up with these programs. And that's what I discovered with this injury for 30 years is that in my 20s, my 30s, now in my 40s, if I have to work this injured side harder than the non-injured side because otherwise it gets weaker faster than the other side.
Hmm.
And so if you had a knee replacement, if you had an injury, is even more reason to have a maintenance program.
Right. And again, like you said, keeping up with that maintenance, it's imperative for you to continue that maintenance and to continue keeping up with that forever. It's a forever thing. It's not just, oh, you go through your 6 or 12 weeks of rehab and then you're done. You're not done. You're never done. Your body is not ever done until you're done. Your body is continuing to do its thing, and you have to maintain it to allow it to be the best that it can for as long as it can. Otherwise, it's going to go down. It's not going to go up on its own.
Yeah,
It doesn't get better. I mean, it heals on its own, but it's not going to heal on its own without your help. So, yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, Jonathan, Dr. Johnathan Su, for coming on the show today. I super appreciate your input and talking about your books. Um, do you have any words of wisdom or anything that you would like to leave our guests with today?
yeah, I would say that if you're experiencing pain, if you had a serious injury in the past, or you've had pain that just came on for no reason, that there's likely a non-medical, non-surgical solution for your pain. And if you decide to pursue that avenue, you might be very surprised at how good you can feel.
Definitely. And your website is 6minutefitness.com.
That's right.
Yep, and you can find all of his books on there. I will have all that information in the show notes as well. 6 minute knee pain cures, 6 minute fitness 60 plus, and 6 minute core strength as well. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Gabby.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening today. I will have all his information listed for you in the show notes so you can find his books, and we will see you all next week.